Today I want to talk about 5 reasons every entrepreneur should read The Martian by Andy Weir. But not just entrepreneurs, artists, creatives, business owners. I think everyone should read it. And it's interesting because I've read, hundreds of books pertaining to personal development, my career progression. Most have been nonfiction. So it's interesting that one of the most important books I ever read was a fictional book. I didn't expect that. I'm excited to dive into exactly why that is today. So number 1 is resourcefulness. So Mark Watney's ability to be resourceful throughout this book is one of the most powerful themes. Obviously he's left on Mars, which has an atmosphere not conducive to survival, not without, immense resources and technology and precise planning. And he's just dropped there with whatever was left. And so he has to sort of scrape together with what remains on the planet enough to survive a single day. And that's, utilizing his expertise at NASA. He's a botanist, so he's kind of figuring out how to grow potatoes. He's just using what's around to survive. And one day turns into 2 days, turns into 3 days, eventually turns into a roadmap to be reunited and picked up by the astronauts. And when you see that, there's almost a direct correlation, I think. I mean, we're not on Mars, but as entrepreneurs or creators or whatever, fill in the blank, so much of our success hinges on what we make with what we have. Sometimes it feels like we are dropped on a foreign planet. We don't have a plan. We don't have the exact tools that we wish we had. We don't have all the answers. But there's a saying that what you need, you have. That when you look around, there's enough to get to the next step and the next and the next. But ultimately, when you adapt that mentality, what you'll find, like Mark Watney did, is, you can weather some pretty incredible storms and ultimately, get yourself exactly where you need to be to succeed, whatever your definition of success is in whatever world that you are operating in. Number 2 is that Mark didn't take things personally. And this was actually one of the most inspiring things I took from the book, right? The guy has every reason to be angry. He was left on a foreign planet to die, right? But never once does he shake his fist and blame the world. He doesn't pout when things blow up in his face. He doesn't ask why me when plans don't come to fruition. It was like he made himself an objective player in a game where when things collapse around him, he composes himself, looks around, and goes, what's the next move? What can I do here? There's no emotion. It's all practicality. I took that mindset and tried to inject it into as many things as possible. Let's take YouTube, right? Building a brand online. Something I've obviously committed a lot of time and energy into, right? Well, there are times where you put your heart and soul into a project, it doesn't come out the way you want it to, right? There are times where you can be criticized in the comments for something you said or something you've created. There are times when you have plans, and again, the plans don't come to fruition, right? And what do? You want to point at yourself. You want to think that it's a referendum on you as a person, or you're not good, or whatever. And it reminds me to depersonalize, to remove the emotion, and as objectively as I can ask, here's the situation, how can I best solve it? Right? Adapt, adapt, adapt. I'm not perfect, I never will be. And thank God, life is not a perfection game, it's an adaptability game. Like Mark Watney did on Mars, how can I adapt in my own little world on Earth? Number 3 is Mark's optimism and resilience. So one of the coolest things about this book, from cover to cover, is his attitude, right? The main character is joking the entire time. And granted, he's one mistake away from death, always. And still, he's writing sarcastic things in his journal about his peers. He's being self-deprecating. He's somehow seemingly enjoying it. And, it's a simple thing, but it's a valuable thing, right? There's a fictional character stuck on Mars, sure, but it reminds me to enjoy the ride a little bit. when my biggest issue today was the slow upload speed, do I have anything to throw a tantrum about or be upset about? It's like, lighten up and enjoy the journey, because one day we'll look back, and as Andy Bernard's quoted is saying, you'll realize that you were in the good old days. And I really appreciated that from this book. Number 4 is trust in your team. This is a simple one, but a powerful one, right? Even though Mark spends the vast majority of the book completely alone, he knows down on Earth at NASA, they're working around the clock to come up with a solution, right? And he might give them a hard time here and there in the book, but he also points out their excellence. And he anticipates that. He anticipates they'll follow through. His belief and trust in those guys is the reason he crafts a plan to begin with, right? And ultimately, they are able to evolve together and find a strategy to get him off the planet. And I think there's something to be said there, right? Especially, I was you can call it a solopreneur, personal creator for a long time, and you can do okay. You can survive the day-to-day, right? You can even make progress, substantial progress, but it pales in comparison to having talented people around you that you trust and believe in, people that show up every day giving their best just like you give yours. When you create that environment, it really is amazing what can be accomplished. Number 5 is never lose sight of the big picture, right? Like Mark Watney did, hitch your wagon to a star. It shows you the power of being locked in on one thing and dedicating yourself to it. Now, his situation was life and death, right? So it's not a complete one-to-one comparison, but I think the idea remains. When something is your metaphorical evacuation from Mars, when you are completely immersed and committed to something, you find a way. On good days and bad days, you find a way. And I feel like that's a great final point here. Lock in on that North Star. Never lose sight of that big picture, whatever it is for you. And there you have it. 5 reasons I think every entrepreneur should read The Martian by Andy Weir. I hope you enjoyed this video. Per usual, anything I left off or anything you want to add, feel free to throw it in the comments. And look forward to catching up with you